Ooh. Looks great. I don't have a guest. Hey, Anna, do you want to be on my coffee chats?
Right now?
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, have a seat. Let's do it. Okay. Good morning.
Hello.
This is very exciting because today we have the person who's behind the camera, which is Anna, my wife.
It's much brighter on this side of the camera.
Yeah?
Yeah, very
How does
bright.
it feel so far besides the brightness?
It's very bright. That's all I can think about.
Well, we just got some new lights, so it's
like
more
the-
bright than usual. I'm also adjusting my eyes to this. Wow, it is quite bright. Well, time out. We're back.
Made some lighting adjustments.
Made some lighting adjustments. So what's really exciting about today's coffee chat is we are going to be talking about, well, we're about to complete our first official year being business owners. Like we've mentioned before in other interviews, we have our company, which is named Hire Ellas. We are Ellas. We're a digital marketing duo. And thanks to a new friend of ours, shout out to Marta Rivera, who was like, hey, why don't you talk about, like, now that you're completing this year, why don't you talk about what you've learned this year, since it's fresh in your mind and all that stuff. So I thought this would be the right platform, because I think mental health and being a business owner there's such a great, vast opportunity to talk about with that intersectionality. And I thought, what better person to talk to, like, what other business owner do I know that would be open to be talking about this experience than my co-founder, my partner in crime, Anna Diaz. So Anna has also sat through, you've been, in the background listening to some of these coffee chats. Is there anything that you've learned this year, even with our coffee chats?
Oh, man. I've learned that you're always going to be a little scared.
Like in general?
In general. And if you're not, then maybe you're complacent, but nothing wrong with being a little nervous or scared.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, well, let's dive into this idea of what we've learned this year as business owners and what has helped you through the hurdles from a mental health perspective. You want to kick us off? Anything come to mind?
I think you really
A deep breath.
I'm like,
It's okay, baby. We're here. We're still here.
I think you have to remind yourself of the moments where you're like, wow, this is really cool. Like, we accomplished this. Otherwise, all you're going to think about is like, oh, it's late and I have to do this. Or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we have to do all this. Didn't we already do that? So I think that's the biggest thing. It's reminding yourself of the little wins. What about you? Another deep breath?
I know, like, there's so many things, to be honest, but I thought it would be kind of cool to kind of go through this conversation in chronicle order. I think when we first, so we technically started our business last summer, but we spent most of last summer kind of, trying to figure out with a couple of clients and even some pro bono clients, like, can we do this? If we were to work together, can we do this? And and we were also planning our wedding. And so we didn't really, it was very just sort of dipping our toes. It wasn't until January, that we were like, okay, we're off and running. And I will have to say that first month was terrifying. It was terrifying. And it's crazy. I didn't think that I would be terrified. I thought I'd be like, oh my God, we're ready. Let's go. I'd be like excited and happy. And I think that's one thing I really learned is I think expectations you have of how your mindset's going to be once you're in it can look different, and I think there's honesty in that. Like, if there's anything I can share with people is like, that's going to happen, but don't let that disalignment scare you. It's actually really normal because it's all a big deal. Like, I guess I was surprised and I was naive that I was like, wait, but why am the mindset, why is it changing when I'm like, I know I'm excited, I'm ready for this, I know where I want to be here. But the truth is that, like, reality sets in and it's scary.
And I think it's important, especially for someone that's never done this before, like you and I, to realize it's scary because we have never done this before. This is a completely new thing that we're building and learning at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's going to be moments where we're like, what does this mean?
Yeah. You said a key word there, and you said building. Like, I think giving yourself like grace and using language. And I actually think this applies to any part of your life, but really using language to help support your mindset and your goals, you know, reframing. So for me, the term building was a big thing for me. It was like, I wanted to be somewhere already. And so you helped me like figure out like, okay, like we are building something. Literally, we're building something out of nothing. And we'll talk a little bit about an analogy that we're sort of landing on, but that's at the end of the end of the year analogy. But we kind of want to walk you through the first, you know, the different quarters of our journey this year. But I think, yeah, that first quarter was like, I was like, oh my God, like what, I am not, this is, my own mind was playing tricks on me.
We were Googling things every day. We're like, what does this mean? Why do we get this in the mail?
Yeah.
Just the order in which you have to file the paperwork to start your business. I remember it was a huge thing because we didn't know if one thing's supposed to come before the other.
Yeah, there's not and I remember being like, putting together like a few slides of like, okay, this is what I remember. And what was cool was because I had done that, I had a friend who reached out and was like, what is the order? And I was like, okay, now I can share this with people. So I think that's been really cool, is to be like, okay, what have we learned so that other people don't have to go through that mess? Like we want to, you know, like make other people feel like it doesn't have to be so much of a hurdle. But there was something specifically in February, March time era, right? A couple months I had already been starting to do outreach and all this stuff. And I was starting to really think like, is this really gonna work? Like I had doubt. Like now from like fear comes doubt. And I remember I think leaning into people that you respect, that are your mentors, and opening up, being vulnerable with them really helps. So in that time, I was vulnerable with one of my mentors, and they gave me some really good advice, which I'm going to share with you now. Is, you know, I didn't grow up wanting to do sales, be a salesperson, right? But when you're in your own business, you're wearing a lot of hats. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to be one of those salespeople that I didn't, you know, grow up. I didn't want to be that type of person. You know, it's just not who I am inherently. And so she taught me to really embrace who I am. And she said, Jackie, you got a good heart, you're kind. And I was like, I'm going to lean into how that part of me has helped me in my journey, personally and professionally. And so I leaned in on who I was and the things I valued in myself. And that really opened the door for me to really turn to community, to turn to relationships, and knew that, and it came naturally to me. And it reinforced and affirmed like my path of like, let's keep going, and things started to change for me. So that helped me, but it did take a moment to be like, oh my God, like I have to turn to somebody that can I can't just like suppress these feelings. Like I'm feeling this fear and all this doubt, you know. And so that really was important for me, because I knew how important it is in my own personal mental health journey, of like how important it is to open up to people that you trust about what you're going through, and not just holding it in. Like you're not alone. And so in doing that helped me. But Anna, what are you? So the thing about Anna, she's so funny about mental health, is that a lot of the mental health stuff, I feel like you've told me over the years that you've done a lot of that hard work in your 20s. You did that. So I feel like now that's why you're so like, you're able to process things a little bit more succinctly. I don't know. But have you been challenged this year with that stuff, with this business?
Yes. Like
Let's hear.
My general approach is nothing is ever that serious. And I mean that in a way where like you don't, like if your immediate reaction to something is like take a moment, breathe, and come back to it. And usually you can think past that initial like reaction. You're like, oh, okay, this is how I overcome this. This is how I solve this. This is why I actually feel this way. And with this business, there have been moments where I'm just like, and then I forget to kind of take that moment to breathe. And I feel like a teenager, because sometimes we'll have to like work on something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we already did this. Why can't we? You know, it's yeah. So this reminds me of almost feeling like a teenager again, where I'm just like, no, we already did all this, but it's like I said, we're building something new.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, she didn't know she was going to be a guest, so she didn't turn off her phone. So, just 1 second. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so, you talked about how, like, being an entrepreneur it reminded you of being a teenager. It definitely challenges you. We've gotten, one thing we've been trying to do is lean in on talking to other entrepreneurs for their advice. And I think dealing with stress and knowing that things are going to be constantly changing is part of it. We just really want to take a moment to really talk about how challenging it is, but also we'll talk about how wonderful it is too. We'll get to those moments, but first, I would say the first half of the year was it was more challenging moments with sprinkles of hope. Do you want to talk about any sprinkles of hope that you felt before the summer?
I think as more and more people got to know us, we were, like Jackie said, we leaned into what we cared about. And one of our big values as a company and as people is authenticity and just being ourselves. And I think as we kind of showed our faces in the community, people were remembering us because we were so unabashedly ourselves. It's so many layers of it. I think that's neat that eventually people are like, hey, well, especially for me, since Jackie's the one on the ground, we'd go somewhere and they're like, hey, Anna. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. How do you know my name? And it's because they saw us online or yeah. So that was neat to see how, as we kind of got acquainted with the community, people were like, hey, you're a little different. What's your deal?
And you've really come out of your shell, because before this adventure, you weren't really keen on being in videos. And now you're like, I'm ready for my shot. Has that helped you with your personal development, you feel like, this year?
I think so. As I've gotten older, it's true, you don't care what people think. So I was already that was kind of the path that I was slowly taking. But now doing this, I'm like, you know what? Strangers come up to me and say they like my videos. Of course I can speak up in a meeting or something. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that, we had just gotten married to is how important it was, I know for me, to kind of do check-ins, communicate with Anna. I think especially if you're working, honestly, if you're working with a partner or a friend, anybody really, any business partner you have, you have to take care of each other. You have to look out, you're a team. And so it was trying to be my best to be intentional with you about, okay, how are you feeling about that? Is that working? Is that too much? Our balancing our life as a new married couple and in this business,
having her as my boss.
No, we're both are each other's bosses. But I think communication was key, to working through things. We had to work through things, talk through things, so that we could find better systems of doing things. And we just spent, yesterday, we just spent a whole day blocking out 2024. I like that we were able to just talk through our worries, our concerns, and work together to find solutions for the betterment of this business of ours. It's weird to say that.
Yeah. And then also kind of working or learning to work, how can I describe it? Understanding what we do as a job, because prior to this, your job was one part of marketing, my job was another part, and kind of coming together and really seeing head on how this works. Prior to this, client relationships was something that I was only a little bit familiar with, and then working with you.
Do you hate me now?
No, I don't hate you. No, don't hate her. So it's just it's you just have to, it's a whole different mindset. And same with you, with being creative. I'm used to people coming back and be like, yeah, I don't like the way this is. I'm like, okay, let's redo it. And for you, you're like, what, why, what happened? And it's just learning how to be in each other's shoes. And
yeah, that's been really cool to learn more about what it feels like to be in your shoes, and how I can be a better, I wouldn't say boss, but account person to you. I feel like we really are, we're finding our way to work together, but
from our group.
Yeah. No, I remember that that there was something else that like that I was surprised about was when it came to like doing the work and feeling imposter syndrome.
Okay.
So there definitely were moments where it was like, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, like we got this, like we're doing this, and can I do this? Like, and really having like a battle. Like I guess I figured that imposter syndrome was something that was somehow correlated with being in corporate, but it's something that has followed me in this line of work, and being able to believe in myself more, which is something that you always advocate for me, of like having more confidence, trusting myself more, being able to make decisions more carefully but swiftly, if you will. And I think a lot of that was like, I have had to find tools to help me through that, like journaling, calendaring. Like I remember that first quarter, I didn't do it anymore because I actually got busy, which was great. But I remember like I had like a schedule, and I was like, oh, and I remember every day I would write like small little wins, you know, or I'd write them down when we were having a meeting, and I'm like, oh, we had this win, you know. And it was like, those things are really important. I think it really helped me to push through, because there's like some tough seasons and you're like, no, but we were able to do this and that. And it's just like, I've been telling people, I'm like, dude, had we given up 6 months ago, like the second second half of this year would have looked very different, you know? And it's like, it takes that sort of being resilient, and finding ways to keep you moving forward. And like you said, like, I mean, I think reminding yourself of like why you're doing this, reminding yourself of that, and then finding ways to remind yourself to do that, I think is really key.
Yeah. And then you said this thing about like being confident, and I think for me, like one of the big things about being a business owner is you have to make a lot of decisions. And
yes, you do. And sometimes you just gotta.
Yeah, sometimes they have to be quick. Sometimes you have more time to think on them, but you have to be confident in your decision, and you have to be aware that sometimes that decision is not going to be the right one, and you have to be okay with that. But you know, you can make other decisions to fix it, or all is not lost. You know, unless you completely did something crazy. Yeah, any decision you can adjust it or change something in the future to make up for it if it was the wrong decision. But you have to be confident in that decision at that moment, because at that moment, that is the right decision to make.
I think one moment that I wanted to share, that I think I really want to share with you all as you're navigating your new business or you're thinking about it, it's one of those things where it's like you cannot hold back. Like, right? Like you have to, if you're in front of certain people, you got to believe in your business like 150%, you know? You have to 150% advocate for your business and what your dream is, what your vision is. And when you're in networking situations, like take advantage of those moments. We were able to ultimately secure a really great client because we were in a situation where we literally were like, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do. And yeah, somebody can tell you like, who cares, right? Somebody could, and that could happen, but then you'll get a chance and that person will be like, wait, the timing aligned, you know? And I think just not holding back. Like if you're gonna do this, like go for it, like go in, you know? And I feel like we've done that. And I, you know, not everyone is lucky enough to have a partner. Some people are solo entrepreneurs, which is like a whole level of respect that I have for people like that don't necessarily have extra support like we support each other. But just go for it, you know? Like if you're gonna choose this path, like just go for it, right? Were you keen on that, or were you like, oh, like?
Yes, I know. I firmly believe that, especially as an introvert, because if you're like charismatic and outgoing, it could be a little easier. But if you're an introvert, you have to always go for it, because then the answer will always be no. And even if the answer is no, usually the sting goes away. The sting always goes away from a no. Yeah. And yeah, you just have to go for it. Like when we go to like networking things, I still get nervous Jackie's always just like, okay, there's this person, let's go talk to him. And I'm just like, but then you end up talking to them and it turns out to be like either a fun connection or somehow they know someone that
Yeah.
connects to you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, just Domino's, all these things. But none of that would have happened if you had never at least just gone up and said hi.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, and we teach this a lot with a lot of our clients and workshops is, you know, this applies for your personal life as well, is like the more that you can get to know who you are, the more that you can understand your love and commitment and passion towards your business, the more that you'll be eager to invest in it. That's why like you really have to believe in it, right? Because if there's like any doubt that you're feeding and you're growing, it's just gonna fester into the process. And so anything you could do to protect, right? Like I always talk about, like, I don't know where I've heard this from, but it's like this idea of like really protecting your dreams because they're your unique dreams. Like really do what you can to protect them and preserve them. I think is super needed because like there's competition, there's like just the world telling you like, really, like you're gonna try to do this, and you're like, I am, you know. For Dones and Tortas, like there were moments where I'm like, is anybody even gonna want to see this? Like what? Like, but I'm here, and I'm, knock on wood, like I've been fortunate enough, like sometimes it's not necessarily the quantity at the time, but the quality of people that have come into our, what is it, Higher headquarters here, has been so awesome. It's been free therapy for me in these coffee chats, like incredible. But I think, you know, but it's hard. It's definitely hard work. It's being committed, consistent, and like we recently heard, and you'll find out when we talk to the Super Mamas podcast, hermanas, is like anything that's worth doing is gonna require hard work, but you'll start building. So the first half of the year was just very much just, I feel like for me, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about in its entirety, but I feel like the first half year of the year was like just like putting in the work to like get people to know who we are, get to meet people, to learn what they're like, you know, we could research what's going on the ground with small business owners, but it's really about like meeting them and getting to know firsthand, you know, what their worries are about. So really learning more about the market, learning about where we could fit in that market, and continuing to feel like we can do this in spite of all of the hurdles. And then I feel like then as the second half of the year came in, then it was like, okay, like trust was being built, and we were able to build on current clients, new clients, and then it was about like getting to work, and it was, you know, being focused on delivering quality work. So it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, and I think the second half for me has been those moments where I'm like, okay, remember why you do this. The second half, those moments have gotten bigger. Like some of the social media stuff we worked on, just kind of like some of the events that we've gotten invited to.
Yeah.
And now, as like I said, as we move around the community, I recognize more people recognize us. And I'm just like, oh, okay, now I see, like, yeah, the wins have just gotten bigger, I'd say. Yeah.
Are those wins something that keep you motivated then?
Yeah, there are things that I'm really proud of, and there are things that, whatever happens, I can say like, look what we were able to accomplish. Things that I'll put on my portfolio no matter what.
How has it been working with your partner? Who's right in front of you?
No.
Do you want me to step out for this part?
It's been fun because we can commiserate like without any filters, you know.
Yeah.
Like our late night work sessions, when we get a little delirious, and we just start joking.
Good joking around that.
When we're like, you know what, let's get large coffees today. We deserve it. And it's also been difficult at times because when you're frustrated because you trust this person so much, you can be so mean to them. You know, teenagers are mean. You know?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, you know how I said I act like a teenager? Like, this is making me feel like a teenager because I don't understand how to regulate these emotions. You can be mean, and you know, teenagers. When that happens? Yeah, teenagers can be a little moody and mean, and that's because there's just so much, like, trust that you feel that you can say these things.
Yeah. You know? Yeah.
But then also, we're able to be like, no, that made me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And, you know, X, Y, Z, and then we can kind of talk it through and figure out how to get past this hurdle or work something out.
Yeah.
So the one person doesn't feel a certain way.
Yeah. If you really want to test your marriage or your relationship, start a business together because it really pushes you, but it also...
And travel.
And what? And travel.
Travel to a foreign country where you don't know the language.
No, I mean, I just feel like, you know, I feel like it's brought us, I know it sounds kind of silly, but I do feel like it's brought us closer. And I have seen you grow, I've seen myself grow, but I've seen like, the communication get more, I feel like we're more in sync, you know, because we care a lot about each other, obviously, but we care about this business and we're like, okay, like, let's not let these emotions or this teenager moments like get in the way of like our ultimate goal, you know, which is really important to why we are doing this. Like, we literally are taking a really hard path, truthfully. You know, we've been working almost every day this year, and one of those things where it's like, well, what is it that we want to build with our skills and with each other that keeps me motivated? It keeps me like, okay, like, I don't know if you've noticed by now, but like, I'm definitely like the dreamer, and Anna's like, okay, let's see how we can actually do this.
I'm very practical and pragmatic.
And I'm like, well. But I think mentally, I think it's been, you know, I'm very honest about my mental health journey. I was in therapy through, I think, the summer. So for the first half of the year, I was going to therapy on a regular basis. It helped me through those hurdles I was telling you about. And then it was like, okay, you know, time to take the tools that I've put in my toolbox and let's help them through. And I think if I hadn't honestly been able to like also like go to therapy while I was starting the business, I think that was a big part of like this second half of the year being like allowing me then to put in the work and not be, I wouldn't say distracted, but because there were definitely still moments, and that's why I got my toolbox, you know. But I think it helped to kind of settle into the second part of the year. I don't know. And then one thing that's really interesting and I want to share with you is like, you know, in this relationship, you know, you have been able to cultivate some of those tools at an earlier age than I did, right? Like, so like, I'm more open about my reactions and my hardships. And you're always more calm and cool. Do you feel like, what has helped you this year when it comes to like being an entrepreneur? Like, are there new things that you've cultivated, you feel like, because you're an entrepreneur? So you were already like, you're in a good place, like well equipped. And then I just threw this business at you and I'm like, hey, like what have you seen where have you seen yourself grow?
I think it's this idea of risk tolerance. A lot of this work that I've done to be calm and cool, as you say, it also leans into me not being too risky. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like, I know my limits, so why go there? Why stress myself out? These are my limits. But with this business, I have no control over that. You know, the stress is whatever is happening.
Yeah.
And I think that it's made me be a little less afraid of stress. And I think that helps, you know, with deadlines and like I said about going up to strangers and trying to essentially sell yourself to a stranger. It's all very stressful, but then it's kind of helped me build up that tolerance for like a new level of stress.
And then you go on your merry way.
And then I go on my merry way and I'm like,
yeah. Anything? I'm not used to this. I'm used to people like,
I don't know.
Do you want to ask me anything? Like,
I'm clearly not the ideal guest.
She's shy.
Yeah, not the ideal guest. Yeah, risk tolerance. Let me see.
When I asked you about like, hey, I was like, hey, let's do a coffee chat about first year of being business. Like, was there something that came to mind that you're like, oh, first year of business, huh?
Actually, no. It was just like I'll just answer what she's gonna ask.
See how practical she is? I love it. I love it. I can work with this.
It's there's stresses, there's wins. That's the first year of business. We're learning.
Yeah. I think so. Anna's really good at analogies, like to put things in perspective. And so I thought definitely don't want to end this chat without talking about this, okay? Because so we pretty much have shared with you, like, it's been a roller coaster, but you know, you got to lean in on other people, on who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and understand it's going to be a process, right? You're building something. And so in the spirit of building, so we're coming, right? We're going to enter year 2. I don't feel just as nervous, but I'm still nervous. I'm still scared, but now I'm like, okay, but now I know what helped me the first year, and so I'm gonna like apply some of those things, you know, when I see it again, when those feelings are familiar again, year 2, I'm gonna. So I have something now, right? I have a base. But you brought up a really great analogy, because I still feel like, yeah, it's year 2, but we still got a long way to go, you know. But you brought up a really awesome analogy that helps me kind of like surrender to what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Idea, like the
house thing, yeah.
So a big word that we said earlier is building. We're building something, right? Some people like to talk about like, oh, your business is like a person and it's only this old, so think about what a toddler can do. So a well-established business is like a home with an address, you know who lives there, you recognize the house. For us, we have to build all that from scratch. You know, if we were corporate, we could live in an apartment that looks like every other apartment, but we can't paint the walls, we can't pick the layout. But we want to have complete control over where we live, so to speak. So we're building a house. And in this past year, we've finally decided like what street to be on, what neighborhood to be in. And sometimes we're like, well, we should at least have the frame up. And it's like, well, it's a big decision. We have to make sure that where we're going to build this house is the right plot of land. So yeah, so we're year 1. We finally know what neighborhood we're in. So now we're figuring out how to get this foundation nice and smooth. We've already started setting it up, but hopefully this next year we cement it, and maybe year 3 we get the frame up. And
imagine.
Who knows? Maybe one day we'll have a pool in the backyard.
Well, well, kind of like how, like, you know, if had we stopped after quarter 1 or the middle of the year, we wouldn't have these other like wins and experiences and learnings. And I feel the same way when it comes to years. Like if we stop year 1, you know, then what year 3 could have been, or year 5, you know. So I think
you said it really well just now, where what you've experienced in year 1 now gives you a baseline for what's to come. And that baseline, you can only fine tune it and be more prepared as it comes. So you know, a few years down the road, something will come up. It may not be the exact same thing you've ever experienced, but it's similar to other things you've experienced, so you know how to navigate it, you know how to handle the stresses or the decision making that comes with it. And if you were just thrown into a business, you know, 10-year business with no experience, it's going to be very stressful because you have no baseline.
I don't know if anybody is catching this, but like what you're just explaining right now, I think also applies to life, right? Like if we had not experienced this first year, we wouldn't have a base to reference. And so I think in life, that same way, it's like we go through things, and it's giving us perspective, a base, so that we know how to experience the present moment. And so I think I never realized like the comparison.
It's all related.
It's all related.
It's all related.
Yeah. You know, because we love to talk about mental health here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's just, a business is just another little journey you're taking on in this life.
Yeah.
You got to have all your tools ready, you know?
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to come up.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like, the Anna that I met in 2016, like, I would have never imagined that she would want to do this, like, be on this journey. Yeah. I think you talk about risk tolerance. I think it's gotten bigger.
Bigger?
Yeah, like I think, I hope, and due to part to me, your belief in me, but...
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because the Jackie that I met, I'd be like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to do that? She's very outgoing. I always tell her that she's a badass.
Thank you.
So, yeah. The Jackie that I knew, that I've met way back when, that she said, one day so I want to start a business. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like something you'd want to do.
What if I told you, like, do you want to do the business with me?
I'd be like, well, what's the business plan? What are my roles and responsibilities?
Yeah. We were just talking about this other day, but like, I think our second date or third date, we went to Afters for the donut ice cream sandwich, and you didn't realize you were going to be part of the crew.
Yeah,
of Donas y Tortas.
You had an ice cream donut from Donas y Tortas. You said I could take a picture, and I was like, wait. I think it'd look better if it was like this. And then I took a photo, and you posted it, and that was my unofficial introduction to the Donas y Tortas crew. Now, and I've been the sole crew. Well, no, sometimes someone helps you, but I've been the main crew. But you've been for the most part, yeah, ever since. Yeah, these coffee chats. I don't know if you remember when I started doing them by myself. What did you think of that? You're like, silly Jackie. So I don't know how many of you know this, but like when I first started these coffee chats it was actually last year. Yeah, last year. I started doing these with my cup here by myself. Because I was, going through some stuff, and I thought, well, I need to express myself, blah, blah, blah. So what did you make of it? What did you think of it then and now, like, seeing it where it is right now, where it's happening? When you first started, I would say, yeah, that sounds like Jackie. She's a storyteller, at heart. Your hero's Oprah. Like, of course you'd want to... to talk into a camera and tell stories or talk about things. So yeah, it makes sense. And then it's neat to see people come in and be so excited about this conversation. Yeah. It's a testament to your personality and your ability to connect with others. Wow, thanks. Well, because imagine me doing all these coffee chats, I'd be like you do this. How'd that make you feel? You'd be like this. You'd be like, yeah, so that's what I would do. No, honestly, it's that was too real. Was that too real? It was too real. We're real here. No, it's been, so we're coming up on, my hope is to actually publish this by the end of this month, by the end of 2023. But we're coming up on, we just wrapped up our last interview for the When Food and Life meet. And on Monday, which is tomorrow, we're gonna have our last shoot for Coffee Chats for this year. And it's just been, I don't know, it's been, like these chats with my guests have been just incredibly inspiring. And I leave just like pumped, and it's tools, which I hope have been tools for anybody who's been watching. We appreciate you, and I hope that you feel what I feel when I'm done chatting with these people, because it's just I hope that you've been inspired by Anna today. Like, she's a force of nature. Yeah. I mean, if you want to marry me and you want to do this with me, you got to be like pretty resilient. You gotta have risk tolerance. Risk tolerance. No, it's been wonderful, and so I thank you for coming on to this coffee chat with me, Anna. Having me as a guest. Mm-hmm. Feel honored to be part of the roster. Aw. Yeah. You'll come back next year? Maybe. Yeah, we could talk about end of year 2. See how it goes. Maybe. Get back to you. Get back to me. See where I am a year from now. Okay. I might be too busy. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, without further ado. Cheers to 2024? Cheers to 2024? 2024. Yeah, let's do it. We're already here. We're already here.